Every hero eventually comes a sidekick. Whether they be brothers, friends, or just flat out pet and owner, this character usually defines our protagonist while having their own development. One of the most recognizable sidekicks in video game history is this two-tailed fox, but what flippin' happened to him? His development in the adventure games made him such an appealing character in the first place, but it seems like Tails lost that personality somewhere down the road. I'm going to try and express my thoughts on Tails through this review and these categories, so let's dive into that backstory. According to the Sonic 2 manual, Miles Prower just tagged along Sonic because he thought Sonic was cool and was soon nicknamed Tails. Gee, I wonder why. However, it wasn't until Sonic Adventure that Tails actually showed some character any personality. After failing at his new version of Sonic's plane, the Tornado, the game emphasizes on how much of a hero Sonic is to Tails, yet how much Tails really depends on him. It's not until halfway through his story when they are separated that he begins to see it. Alone, he fixes up the new Tornado 2 and heads off to pick up Sonic to head to the egg carrier. After confronting and meeting up with Gamma and Amy, Sonic tells Tails and company to leave while he faces the final boss. Plot twist! Or add-on? The missile launches into the city by Dr. Eggman, but it turns out to be a dud. No longer depending on Sonic, Tails races against Eggman to the missile to prevent it from exploding. In a last-ditch effort, Eggman comes out with this huge machine and says,
"You fool! Away, before I make mincemeat out of you."
Instead of being a wuss like any normal person, cause I know I would have peed in my pants if that ever happened to me, Tails finds the courage within to take down Eggman all by himself. The story of Tails is all about finding courage to rise above being dependent into, well, independent. And his development here is still present in Sonic Adventure 2, where he still is more in the sideline, but he doesn't really depend on Sonic anymore. In Heroes Through Unleashed, Tails is more so in between. He doesn't depend on Sonic, but the games never really show him doing anything on his own anymore. But that's nothing compared to the new Tails. Colors to now completely destroys Tails' character, and this just continues with Tails' personality. Sonic Adventure and onwards always gave me this persona of a shy yet intelligent kid. For an 8-year-old kid, the game showed that he's much smarter than Eggman himself, who has an IQ of 300. As smart as he is, he never brags nor shows off about it, since he sometimes makes silly mistakes like any other character would. While he is timid in a way, he has grown a lot from his shy self, thanks to that character development in Sonic Adventure. This is the Tails that I know and what Sonic Team showed pre-colors. Before we continue, let's talk about the writers of Sonic. Warning! I am sorry if I mispronounce any of these names. Akinori Nishiyama, was the writer of Sonic Adventure, who had previously worked on Sonic Jam and Sonic 2 for the Mega Drive, and would later work as the producer of later Sonic games. Shiro Makawa, he was the writer of Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Heroes, Black Knight, thank you, and previously worked on Sonic Adventure and eventually other Sonic games. Next up is Takashi Iizuka. You guys know this guy. He wrote Shadow the Hedgehog and the Rival series, among other games, and he's now the head of Sonic Team and the producer of all major Sonic titles. Sonic 06 came up as the next major Sonic title, with writers Shiro Makawa, that guy, Shun Nakamura, who worked on these Sonic games, and Kyoko Yoshimura, the guy that wrote 44 episodes of Sonic X and would eventually write Sonic Unleashed and that Night of the Werehog short. The point of me saying all of this is because all of these characters had prior experience with the Blue Hedgehog before actually writing anything of him. During the development of Sonic Colors, I guess Sonic Team thought it was a great idea to get entirely new writers. For the main writers of Sonic Colors and onwards, which includes Generation, Lost Worlds, Forces, and even the 3DS Boom games, would be Ken Fontana and Warren Graff. These two guys have no experience whatsoever with Sonic or Sonic Team prior to Sonic Colors, and it shows in their writing. I think there was even an interview where one of them was saying how they had no idea what Sonic was before they wrote. I didn't see that, so you take that as you will. Not only does this explain why the direction in writing seems more towards kids, but it also explains why the characters' personalities seem off. Post-Colors Tails seem much more like a know-it-all smart side character who depends on Sonic. No, this is my least favorite way anyone could have possibly written Tails, and I hate nearly every bit of it. He seems like the stereotypical nerd character that's just there to know things and nothing more. And while I don't really mind that in the Boom universe, since it's a different universe, it's a huge problem to me for the main games. It's like they knew nothing about his old character and completely ignored his character development, which they do. I have no hate towards the writers, but the writing of Tails ruined the character and nearly anything I liked about him. They made Tails this unique and relatable side character into this generic sidekick. And don't even get me started on Lost World and Forces. In Sonic Lost World, Tails has the biggest man period ever, acting so flippin' moody during the whole entire game. And Forces?
I couldn't figure it out for you, buddy. I'm sorry I wasn't smart enough. Huh? Whoa! Chaos! Sonic, help me!
He's such a wuss, like, just why? I'm sorry to act like everybody else now, and I'm sure this is getting redundant, but this is Chaos Zero. What happened to the independent development in SA1? Whatever happened to him being smart and making a fake Chaos Emerald capable of chaos control? What happened to him fighting Chaos 4? Look, this is too much disrespect for my boy Tails. Don't tell me that the same character who can fight this guy after that flippin' menacing face and everything, but becomes a wuss for Chaos Zero. That's just no. Tails has had a rough time with voice actors. I guess it's because of his age that Sega thought it would be a great idea to have an actual kid voice him, which is cool in theory, but along with bad acting skills, kids eventually lead toward puberty and voice change. Through the main Sonic games, Tails has had 6 voice actors or actresses. Before we begin, I just want to let you guys know that I probably have a very unpopular opinion. Let's get started. Corey Bringus in Sonic Adventure.
I wonder where Sonic is. Time to jam. Where's Robotnik? It's pretty high. My legs are shaking. Trains are cool too. So this is Robotnik's fortress. What is this place? This shit's cool.
Sorry guys, but it's a no from me. The direction seems good enough, but I just don't like the voice acting at all. Connor Bringus in Sonic Adventure 2. That's right, the last one's brother.
There's no mistake about it. This must be the island. It's a secret military base that is reinforced and super strong. It's called Prison Island. I managed to find the transcripts between Eggman and the president in the government computer. Sonic! You can't catch me! I did it, Sonic!
The voice direction is a bit better, but there are some times where it just feels like he's reading right off the script. Congratulations, Tails. This is what that thing says. Okay, we get it. William Corkery in Sonic Heroes.
Oh no! All set! Wow, my head's spinning! Must be my lucky day! We aren't gonna make it! Want some more?
Probably the worst voice Tails has ever gotten. Yeah, I know it's supposed to be a kid, but I just hated the voice direction, and some of his lines either make me cringe or just gave me a headache. It wasn't until 4Kids and Sonic X that Sega finally decided to have an actress do a male kid voice. Amy Pallant.
Listen up, you losers! You're just a bunch of wimps! You deserve to lose your home! Okay, Sonic, I'll be right back. Yeah! Knuckles! Yay! Made it, Sonic! I've got this one, Sonic. Tornado, battle mode, engaged.
Honestly, this is my favorite Tails voice ever. It just fits with everything Tails stood for. I get that people don't like her because of the over-the-top voice, which I completely understand, but I just think it fits Tails' personality perfectly. Kinda like how Lisa Ortiz is just born for Amy, that's how I feel for Tails. They toned it down a bit in Unleashed, but I still prefer her performance and voice direction in other games and such. Kate Higgins.
Hello, Sonic. Do you read me? I'll be your navigator. Leave everything but the running to me. Looks like you've got to do something about that block to get past. Thanks, Sonic. I thought I was dead, floating without a body in a black limbo. Ugh. I'm gonna have nightmares for weeks. It's a race to the finish. You did it, Sonic. I'm exhausted. I'll take care of this one. You did it, Sonic.
It seems like this is the most popular actress of Tails, but I can barely see why. I love her performance for classic Tails and Sonic Generations, but Tails' voice? Not so much. Acting is great, but it just doesn't fit with how I see Tails. It could be because of the writing, or the voice direction, or just the lines in general. And maybe the voice would have grown on me, but it seems like she would have been replaced by Colin Villard.
I anticipated that result. Logically, this button must be connected to something. Let's smash them so I can see how they work. There has to be something cool in here. Okay, failed battle plans, old robot designs. Wow, he's got like 10 terabytes of selfies. So where does he keep the... Found it! Virtual reality weapon. The Phantom Ruby.
Now this is probably the most surprising change. I thought Kate Higgins would stay, but Colleen replaced her in Sonic Boom and onwards. Yet, it doesn't really sound too different for me. I honestly didn't even realize that Tails' voice changed until someone pointed it out. Through Sonic Boom's TV show, the voice has really grown on me, and I really appreciate her and Kate's performance, but I'm just still not a huge fan of it. I like it way more than I initially did, but I still prefer Amy Pallant's take. As of 2018, Amy Pallant is my favorite voice actress for Tails. I honestly have no idea where to fit this, so here we go. For those of you who didn't know, with a planned sequel for Sonic 1, Sonic Team wanted to star a new character and sidekick for Sonic in Sonic 2. And so, Sega of America's Sega Technical Institute held an international contest for a concept of a Player 2. This guy originally designed a flying squirrel, but ended up designing a two-tailed fox that we know today. According to the Sonic Wiki, Tails was originally going to be a Tanuki, but it was changed to a fox to avoid being compared to the power-up in Super Mario Bros. 3. So there's a little fun fact for you. Also, here's a bunch of cool things I learned about the artist of Tails. I retweeted it on Twitter. Shameless plug. What made Tails unique at the time was a concept of a Player 2 controlling him at a time where you really wouldn't see multiplayer like this. You could finally have your little brother or sister play while not really playing, which is great. And yes, this is where we're introduced to his flying ability, even though we couldn't really do it until Sonic 3, and his spin dash, which would later become a staple for the franchise. His design and colors complement Sonic perfectly. The primary blend of a blue and yellow, or usually yellow, is always pretty to the eyes. I always thought it was funny how Tails had those little hair things on his forehead, but if you take it off, it's almost like you snatched the stash of Mario, so just don't. So in short, a perfect design to perfectly fit the style of Sonic. While his first appearance was in Sonic 2, the first time I ever saw Tails was in the show Sonic X. I remember waking up early every weekend with my cousins to watch some Sonic X. For those of you who didn't know, my first video game I've ever had was Sonic 06. Yes, I memorized every single scene, and yes, every single thing in that game. The impression these two outlets of Sonic gave me was this really cool feeling of all the characters. Tails was an 8-year-old boy genius, but never harped on it enough to be annoying. And while he did hang by Sonic's side a lot, he could still handle things on his own. As soon as I got Sonic Mega Collection for the GameCube, I remember being surprised and impressed on how much character they could show off in a 2D game with no voice acting. And this was like, what, 1993? I eventually played Heroes and the Adventure games, which confirmed about how much I like Tails, but after seeing the newest Sonic game, Sonic Colors, which had this completely different voice cast, which was the first time I actually noticed voice changes, I was worried. After getting Colors, I began to not care for Tails. They made him so generic that it killed the connection I had with Tails to begin with, and generations onwards continued that trend. It wasn't until around Sonic Boom was announced that I remembered why I began to like Tails in the first place. How do I feel about him now? Well, I still love the guy and what he stood for, and is definitely what I consider to be a great character. But whenever I say that, I think about Tails before Colors. I understand that it's not 100% the writer's fault, but it's pretty flippin' close. But with the release of Sonic Mania last year, I have this renewed hope for the character of Tails. I truly believe that Sonic Team is now listening to their fans, and hopefully they'll remember what made Tails an appealing character in the first place. Look, a guy can dream, okay? The worst impressions of Tails ever was Lost World of Forces, but I guess for Tails' writing, there's nowhere else to go but up. So here's the hoping.